everyone, this is Alexia Bolin with Colid Daily, and we are in the studio with Bob Pauling. He is the president and CEO of MidCarolina Electric Cooperative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me. This is special.
All right, so we're here to talk about the need for power generation, but before we do, let's start by talking about MidCarolina Electric Cooperative because you have such a big impact on the community, but people may not know that. So tell us a little bit about MidCarolina Electric Co-op.
Well, MidCarolina is one of about 20 electric cooperatives in South Carolina. Our service territory is right here. Lake Murray is in the center. If you would do a flyby and take a drone, you'd start at the airport and you go up I-26 to Peak, come around the top of the lake to Saluda, go down to Pillion and come back to the airport. That's kind of our footprint. And of course, we're intermingled with Dominion in that whole territory. But we have about 60,000 meters. We have 155 or so employees. We have 2 locations. Our main office is on I-20 at exit 55. We have about 100 employees work out of that office, and we have about 50 employees that work out of our Dutch Fork office over off Broad River Road.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do. How do we get electricity from MidCarolina Electric Co-op?
Well, we actually distribute electricity to our members. So we don't generate any electricity. Electricity is generated by Santee Cooper and Duke Power that serve power to our substations. And we take it from there. So we don't generate any electricity, but we distribute it out to all of our members throughout our service territory.
Okay, and so like I said, we're here to talk about the need for power generation. So you distribute electricity. So what happens? People think that electricity just is here to stay, right? But we can run out. Is that correct?
Exactly, and we almost did on Christmas Eve, and that's one of the main reasons I'm here is just for awareness. On Christmas Eve, this past Christmas Eve, if you think about what happened on Friday, a big windstorm came through. And it pulled in a lot of cold Arctic air, really throughout the entire southeast. And temperatures plummeted during the night and all day on Saturday, leading into to Christmas Eve. We went to bed. I went to bed feeling good. We got messages from our generation and transmission utility that supplies power. It says all good, all the generators are up and running, transmission lines in good shape. The anticipated load will be covered. Woke up the next day, and during the night, a generator tripped offline somewhere, a transmission line tripped offline somewhere, so we were in a critical load situation. So I actually got notification that there would be rolling blackouts throughout the cooperative's territories across the state, and it was slated in blocks. Our block, believe it or not, was at 1 p.m., and the service territory that would have been affected would have been from St. Andrews Road to Chapin, which is what we serve along Harbison Boulevard and Bower Parkway, and this is Christmas Eve, and this is shopping time, and this is lunchtime, and it would have been ugly. It would have been really bad. But we got saved by an industrial customer that dropped 150 megawatts, which is a portion of the load that allowed us to get through that critical time, and thank goodness we didn't have any rolling blackouts. But the reason I'm here and the mission I'm on right now is we got to keep that from happening again. And we have a shortage in South Carolina, it's really of natural gas. And we don't have adequate pipelines to supply natural gas. And we need natural gas, even though I'm an electric guy, we need natural gas for general industry and to run restaurants and those type things to go along with the electricity that's needed. But the pipelines are fully subscribed to. In other words, the pipelines, it's all the gas we can fit in them and pack in them. And we got to have some extra capacity. And unless we all lock arms and get together, I mean all stakeholders, not just the utilities, but everybody needs to have an equal voice at the table. The utilities, the industry, the politicians, the environmentalists. No one group needs to dominate any part of this conversation. It needs to be a full-on, locked arms, let's figure this out, because South Carolina is a wonderful state. Everybody wants to live here. I mean, we got hundreds of thousands of people moving into our state every year. We got the most beautiful economic development going on right now we can imagine. And it's happening across our state. And we don't need that. We need for that to stop. That's improving the lives of everyone. So, but if we have a shortage of electric generation, it's going to stop. So.
And so how do rolling blackouts affect the community? Because I know, like, for example, people freak out if the power is out for even like 5 minutes.
Right.
Like, I'm worried that my food is going to spoil. I can't use my oven. it could get really hot or really cold inside my house. How else do rolling blackouts affect the community?
Well, the real effect of rolling blackouts, in theory, you have a certain amount of generation, and if you drop a little bit of load and then put it back on, drop a little bit of load, it balances everything out. But in reality, whenever power's turned off at your house, whether it be a storm or a rolling blackout, it doesn't really matter how well insulated, all of a sudden the temperature plummets inside your house. Some houses more than others. So if the power's out for 15 or 20 minutes and the power's turned back on, your HVAC system's going to put on full blast to try to get everything back and going. So what it does is it creates a surge of load. And again, in theory, you can turn your power off for 15 to 20 minutes, cut it back on. But the problem is you turn your power off a section of line for 10 or 15 minutes, then you can't get it back on. You have to piecemeal it back. You have to put part of it on, let the load settle, put part of it on, let the load settle, put part of it on, let the load settle. So those 15-minute blackouts can turn into 4 or 5 hours. By that time, your pipes have burst, and I mean, it's ugly.
And I know this problem could have been solved because there were some other nuclear reactor projects that were, being started, but for some reason they were stopped or halted.
Right.
Can you talk about some of these projects?
I'd be happy to. The VC Summer 2 and 3, the concept was great. The need for the generation was there when we started the plants. Those 2 plants are about 1,100 megawatts each, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but a typical power plant, a coal plant or a gas plant is about 300 or 400 megawatts. So they were twice and 3 times the size per unit. So had those been built, we would have been in good shape. But they were not built. But let's turn the clock back a little bit further. The most recent coal plants that were built in South Carolina were built by Santee Cooper, the Cross plants, and they were put into service in 2007, 2008. There was another coal plant that was on the docket on the PD River that some environmental regulations kind of kicked into effect, and we realized we couldn't build that plant because those emission controls weren't even invented yet. So we backed off of that, and we got a block of power from Duke Energy that had some reserves. So that power plant wasn't built, and then VC Summer, the original plant was supposed to go into service in 2016, the second plant in 2019. They were not built. So if you turn the clock back, it's been over 15 years since we built generation in our state. I mean, one small natural gas plant was built up in Anderson by Duke Energy, but that kind of was to replace some that were coming out of service. So additional generation has not been built in South Carolina in 15 years. Think about the influx of population, the influx of, great economic development, and that's just getting started. And then you throw electric vehicles on top of that, what's in the pipeline. If we don't build some natural gas, somehow get it into this state, we're in trouble.
So you keep talking about how different groups of people need to come together to have a conversation about how to create more plants and generate more energy. Why have these conversations not already taken place?
Well, I do have some news on that front. The governor actually had a summit on June 9th. We brought stakeholders here to the Alumni Association Center, which is really nice. First time I've been to it. And the folks got on the stage from all different stakeholders, from general industry to utilities, and we all concluded, which we knew going into it, that we just need more energy in South Carolina, whether it be electricity or natural gas, the main 2. And the governor has created a task force, and he's got every one of his department heads involved in it, and supposedly they're reaching out to the utilities to get our part of it. But it needs to go further than that. They need to bring every stakeholder around the table. When I say stakeholder, then the political leaders, the environmentalists, the utilities, the business people, the people marketing economic development, Department of Commerce, all those folks need to be around the table and have an equal voice. Nobody needs to dominate the conversation. If one dominates the conversation, then it's going to be skewed, it's going to go a different angle. But everybody needs to really, I'm just going to say it, be mature about it, lay the facts on the table, get your emotions away from it, because this is big business. It's a lot of money investment. South Carolina has done wonderful in economic development, and we don't need for that to stop, because it's elevating the life of citizens, especially now in the rural areas. And most of the metropolitan areas are built out. The rural areas now being built out, which is where our cooperatives serve, And our cooperative members in the rural areas, they deserve good jobs, high-paying jobs with benefits. So that's where it goes. And we're going to continue to have an influx of people in our state. It's a beautiful state. Everybody loves living here. And I think that's going to just continue to grow. But the thing that'll stop us is if we run out of power, if we run out of natural gas. Either of those two things would really intertwine with each other. If we don't figure out a solution to this problem, we're in trouble.
And you're right that you need to be able to sit down and have these mature conversations without overpowering each other. And I think, for example, if you have environmentalists at the table, their biggest comeback is going to be that natural gas emits fossil fuels, which creates carbon dioxide. So what is your response to that?
Well, my response to that is let's let the marketplace handle that. If you look at past, we have shut down a lot of coal plants in our industry. In 2005, we took measures setting standards for 2030, 2040, 2050. The utilities met all those goals that we put in place. If you look at the carbon dioxide output, in 2005, the utilities generation put out about 33 to 35%. Now that number's down to 20% or so. It's under 25%. And that's in less than 20 years. So don't force us to do things. The new EPA regulations 111B and D, they go put constraints on existing generating stations that they're put in place for anything new that's built. So if they go through, then all the utilities are going to have to go back and retrofit with technology like carbon sequestration that hadn't even really been fully developed, except on a small scale. So it's going to destroy our industry. Again, we're making strides. The carbon, whatever your global warming stance is, we have made many, major strides since 2005 doing what we need to do. Let us do our work.
All right. Well, if somebody wants to find out more information about MidCarolina Electric Cooperative, is there a website or is there any resources that they can see from you guys?
Absolutely. We have a website. It's www.mcecoop.com, which stands for MidCarolina Electric Co-op, mcecoop.com. We have a wonderful website. We redesigned it a year or two ago, and it's very user-friendly, and it's got a lot of great information. And we're just a phone call away. Our member service reps can answer questions. We do online chat to answer questions. Call me. Call the co-op and ask for Bob. I'm the only Bob there. There's a Bobby, but it's only one Bob. And I'm telling you, I'll talk to anybody anytime about the power industry and anything else they want to talk about. But I do that on a daily basis. Members call me about issues and things, and that's what I'm hired for, and that's what I'm here to do. So just if you've got any questions about MidCarolina or the power industry, want to have further conversation about our need for natural gas and new generation, I'd be happy to talk to anyone.
All right. Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is Alexia Bolin with COLA Daily. Joining me is Bob Pauling. He is President and CEO of MidCarolina Electric Cooperative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me very much.